Hello, my name is Paul Mason from the Tunbridge Wells Bicycle Users Group, and this film is about the 21st Century Way in Tunbridge Wells. It's a cycle path which goes from the centre of town down to the industrial estate. So if you'd like to come with me, we'll set off down the path and have a look at it.
Now here we are in the centre of town, and here's Good Station Road, the official start of the 21st Century Way. And what we need there is some signage saying this is the 21st century cycle path, this is where it'll take you, this is how long it'll take, and so forth. Good Station Road is a very bumpy road, not nice. There's cars parked on the left and the right, plenty of room to clear those away and put a segregated cycle path in their place. Now here, the cycle path goes in front of Whig House, Quarry House and Kensington House. As you can see, the cycle path is not all that wide here, and there's plenty of possibility of conflict with pedestrians, as you can see in this bit of the film here. So what we suggest is that the cycle path be rerouted to the west side of those buildings and runs along the back of the buildings or alongside the Network Rail property over to the west and north in that map that you can see on the screen. Now here we are approaching the Grosvenor Bridge and Grosvenor and Hilbert Park. The path at this point is very bumpy and uncomfortable, not a pleasant ride at all, and as you can see it's quite narrow and is shared with pedestrians. There's a fair bit of scope for conflict with pedestrians, so we suggest rerouting the path. You can see the existing path marked in yellow there on the map, and then to the northwest two possible alternative routes marked in red and blue running along the northwest edge of the park. This cycle path has the potential to be a really useful route between the industrial estate and the town centre, but it'll only be used by large numbers of people if it's direct. Now here we are coming to Addison Road. What we need here is some signage. Remove those anti-cycling barriers and replace them with bollards or nothing at all. Now here are those anti-cycling barriers again, forcing the cyclist to go around at an awkward angle, so they need removing. More signage needed here. And as we move into Temple Way, raised table required there at that side junction. And then as we come to Sandhurst Road, we desperately need some signage here. And next we come to a Toucan crossing. Now this Toucan crossing needs an induction loop because when you stop here you have to wait quite a long time to allow the traffic to carry on. Again, no sign here as you turn into Oak Road as to where the cycle path is supposed to go. The plan eventually is to replace that last part of the route with a new route going through the redeveloped gasworks, and that would work very well, much more direct. Now here we are back in Oak Road, and you can see there are cars parked down either side of the road, so there's plenty of room to clear those away and create a segregated cycle path. That's what we suggest, in place of that narrow shared space where the cycle path is cluttered up with dustbins, and the cyclist has to cross a couple of roads in a kind of tortuous dance. Now you may think that all this talk about doing away with on-street parking is pretty cavalier, and where are all these people to park? Well, I'd say three things about this. First, if you build really good cycle paths in a town, it will actually reduce the need for people to have cars in the first place. If you can go easily down to the shops, down to your office, down to the station, and safely, you may be inclined to sell that second car, maybe even your first car. Second, as a society, we need to think intelligently about the use of space. On average, a motor vehicle takes up 7 times the amount of space required by a bicycle. So obviously it's more efficient to have bicycle space than vehicle space. And lastly, autonomous cars are definitely on the way, and in 20 or 30 years' time they will reduce the need for people to have a private car at all. So we should be planning for the future. Chris Boardman has recently been appointed the cycling commissar for Manchester, and in his manifesto he has a test of whether a piece of cycling infrastructure is acceptable. Would you allow your 12-year-old daughter to use it? Well, that crossing of Dowding Way that we've just seen would certainly fail that test. Now here we are on Dowding Way. As you can see, it's not a bad cycle path, although it's got these rumble strips which are vertically oriented in the direction of the cyclist and which represent something of a hazard, particularly in cold, wet and muddy weather. Another hazard along the stretch are these side turnings into garages and car showrooms with wide sweeping bends allowing vehicles to come in and out at speed. These represent a great danger to the cyclist, and what we need here is raised tables and priority for the cyclists so that the side turnings will pass the 12-year-old daughter test and the cycle path will be well used. Now shortly we come to the point where the 21st Century Way comes to a rather inauspicious end, and clearly what we need is a link between this point here and the other cycle paths that there are about 300 yards further on the industrial estate, which link up with paths to Tunbridge and Pembury. We would suggest taking away some of this carriageway and allowing that link to be made.